My ex-wife spreading lies about me was a blessing in disguise. The notification sound from my phone cut through the silence of my empty apartment at 11:47 p.m. Another message from someone I'd considered a friend for 8 years. Mike, I think we need some space. What Sarah told us tonight. I just can't believe you do those things to her. Please don't contact our family anymore. I stared at the screen, my coffee growing cold as I read Jessica's words for the third time. That made 7 friends in 2 weeks. 7 people who'd apparently heard Sarah's latest version of our marriage, the one where I was a controlling monster who monitored her every move and screamed at her until she feared for her life. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't destroying what was left of my life in Millbrook. I scrolled up through our message history, looking at photos from Jessica's barbecue just 3 months ago. There was Sarah, arm around her new boyfriend Derek, playing the role of the wounded survivor who'd found love again. There I was in the background, the fool who'd actually believed we could co-parent civilly for Emma's sake. My 15-year-old daughter hadn't returned my calls in 6 days. I walked to my laptop and opened the folder labeled Documentation. 43 audio files, each one timestamped and backed up in 3 separate locations. The benefits of being a software engineer, I'd learned to document everything methodically, especially after Sarah's first episode, 6 months post-divorce. The most recent file was from last Tuesday, Sarah_pickup_attempt_October 15_2023.wave. I clicked play, and my ex-wife's voice filled the apartment. You're such a pathetic loser, Mike. Living in this sad little apartment like some college dropout. Emma's embarrassed to even mention you at school. Her laugh was sharp, cutting. Maybe if you'd been half the man Derek is, I wouldn't have needed to find someone who actually knows how to satisfy a woman. My own voice responded, calm and measured, Sarah, I'm just here to pick up Emma for our weekend. Is she ready? She doesn't want to see you. Deal with it. The custody agreement says. I don't care what some piece of paper says. Sue me. The recording continued for another 8 minutes. Sarah's voice getting louder, more aggressive, while I remained quiet, occasionally asking simple questions about our daughter's schedule or school events. To anyone listening, it would be crystal clear who was being reasonable and who was launching personal attacks. But that was just Tuesday. I had recordings going back 18 months, every interaction since I'd started documenting her behavior. The real gems were from our marriage counseling sessions that Sarah had insisted we record, for accountability. She'd forgotten about those files when she moved out. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Mike. This is Tom Bradley, Emma's soccer coach. I heard some concerning things tonight at the parent meeting. Tom Bradley looked exactly like what you'd expect from a high school soccer coach, weathered face, calloused hands wrapped around a coffee mug, and the kind of direct eye contact that said he'd dealt with his share of teenage drama and parent politics. I've been coaching for 12 years, he said, settling into the booth at Murphy's Diner. You learn to read people pretty quick in this job. Parents especially. I nodded, not sure where he was going with this. Sarah came to Monday's parent meeting fired up about the overnight tournament in Springfield. Said she couldn't allow Emma to go because you'd volunteered to help with transportation, and she was concerned for her daughter's safety around you. Tom's fingers made air quotes. Real dramatic about it. Had Jennifer Morrison and Sue Chin nodding along, looking at me like I was harboring a predator. My stomach dropped. She's trying to get me banned from Emma's games. That's what I thought at first. But then she kept going. Started talking about how you'd been psychologically abusive during your marriage, how you controlled all the money and wouldn't let her see friends. Tom leaned forward. Here's the thing, Mike. I've been watching you at games for 3 years. You bring those little individual Gatorades that Emma likes, the fruit punch ones that cost twice as much as the normal bottles. You know the names of all her teammates. Hell, you drove Madison Cooper to the hospital when she broke her ankle last spring, and her own dad was out of town. Sarah wasn't at that game, I said quietly. Exactly. Sarah misses about half of Emma's games, but somehow she's painting herself as the protective parent. Tom shook his head. Then yesterday, I'm talking to my wife about the whole situation, and she reminds me about something from last year. Remember the team fundraiser dinner? The silent auction? I remembered. Sarah had insisted on bidding on a weekend spa package that went for $800, money we didn't have at the time, especially since I just paid for Emma's club team fees and new cleats. Linda said Sarah got pretty loud with you that night when someone outbid her on that spa thing. Said you were being cheap and embarrassing her in front of the other families. But you just quietly walked over and increased your bid to $850. Tom's expression softened. That's not the behavior of a controlling husband, Mike. That's a guy trying to keep the peace. The memory stung. Sarah had still been angry on the drive home, claiming I'd only bid higher to make her look bad for wanting something nice. I'd slept on the couch that night. Tom, there's something you should know. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to one of the more recent recordings. I've been documenting our interactions since the divorce. Sarah doesn't know. His eyebrows shot up. Recording her. Legal in our state as long as one party consents. I started doing it after she began claiming I'd said things during custody exchanges that never happened. I found the file from Emma's last soccer game, one of the few Sarah had attended. This was from 2 weeks ago, right after Emma scored that goal against Riverside. I hit play, keeping the volume low. Sarah's voice crackled through the phone speaker, don't you dare act like some proud father. You missed her first goal of the season because you were too busy with your pathetic job. Emma told me she wishes Derek was her real dad anyway. Tom winced. On the recording, my voice responded calmly, I'm proud of her no matter what, Sarah. She played great today. Whatever. Just have her back by 6, and make sure she showers. Your apartment probably smells like failure. I stopped the playback. Tom was staring at the phone like it had just grown legs. Jesus, Mike. How long has she been talking to you like that? This is actually pretty mild compared to some of the others. Tom's face had gone from concern to genuinely angry. Mike, this is harassment. You know that, right? I know. But try explaining that to Emma when Sarah's telling her that Daddy is the bad guy. I scrolled through my phone to another file. This one's from 3 weeks ago. Emma's birthday. The recording started with me knocking on Sarah's front door. Hey, I'm here to take Emma to dinner for her birthday. We talked about Olive Garden at 7. Sarah's voice came through clearly, plans changed. Derek's taking us to Romano's instead. You know, somewhere actually nice. Sarah, we agreed I'd have her for birthday dinner. It's in our custody agreement. God, you're so fucking pathetic with your custody agreement. It's a piece of paper, Mike. Emma wants to be with her family, not some weekend dad who can't even afford to take her somewhere decent. Tom shook his head as the recording continued with me asking to at least say happy birthday to Emma, and Sarah claiming she was too busy getting ready to come to the door. Did you see her that day? Tom asked. For 20 minutes the next morning before school. Sarah stood in the driveway the entire time, checking her watch. I put the phone away. Emma barely looked at me. Kept saying she had to go or she'd be late. Tom was quiet for a long moment, stirring his coffee. Linda's going to want to hear this. She's been feeling guilty about how cold she was to you at the last game. He paused. How many people has Sarah talked to? As far as I know. Most of the soccer parents, our old neighbors on Maple Street, people from my church, and pretty much everyone from our couple's friend group. I counted them off in my head. The Hendersons won't even wave when they see me at the grocery store. Jessica Martinez sent me a text telling me to stay away from her family. Brian Coleman blocked my number. What about work? Has this affected your job? My chest tightened. Not yet, but Sarah knows where I work. She came by the office 2 months ago, claimed she needed to drop off some tax documents. Chatted with my boss for 15 minutes about how concerned she was about my mental state post-divorce. Tom's jaw clenched. She's systematically trying to destroy your life. The thing is, Tom, I don't think she's doing it strategically. I think she actually believes her own version of events now. I leaned back in the booth. In Sarah's mind, I'm the villain who ruined her happiness. The fact that I caught her in bed with Derek doesn't matter anymore. She's rewritten history. You caught her cheating. April 15, 2022. Came home early from a work conference because my flight got moved up. The memory still felt surreal. Found them in our bedroom. Derek was supposed to be helping her move furniture while I was gone. Tom whistled low. Does Emma know? Sarah told her I abandoned the family because I couldn't handle her success. She got promoted to regional manager right before the affair started. I rubbed my temples. Emma thinks I left because I was jealous. And now she's telling people you were abusive. The timeline keeps shifting. First I was jealous and controlling. Then I was emotionally unavailable. Now I was actually scary and threatening. I pulled up my notes app, where I'd been tracking Sarah's different versions. Last week she told the Hendersons I used to throw things during arguments. 2 weeks ago, she told Jessica I monitored her text messages and wouldn't let her see her friends. Tom leaned forward. Mike, what's your endgame here? Because this can't continue. I looked out the diner window at Main Street, watching families walk past. Normal people living normal lives, not recording conversations or tracking lies or sleeping alone in empty apartments. I want my daughter back, I said quietly. And I'm tired of being painted as a monster for someone else's guilty conscience. Tom pushed his empty coffee mug aside and pulled out his phone. I want to help you, Mike. What do you need? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Emma's name flashed on the screen, the first time she'd called me in over a week. Hey, sweetheart, how are you? Dad? Her voice was small, uncertain. Can you come pick me up? I'm at Madison's house. My heart jumped. Of course. Is everything okay? It's almost 9 on a school night. Mom was supposed to get me an hour ago, but she's not answering her phone. Madison's mom has to leave for work soon and she can't wait anymore. I was already standing up, grabbing my keys. I'll be there in 10 minutes, okay? Thanks, Dad. She paused. And Dad? Don't tell Mom I called you. She said I should call Derek if she couldn't pick me up. The line went dead. I looked at Tom, who'd caught enough of the conversation to understand. Go, he said. We'll continue this later. But Mike? Start thinking about who else might listen. People who've seen both sides. I drove to the Cooper's house faster than I should have, my mind racing. Emma calling me directly was unprecedented lately. Sarah had made it clear that all communication should go through her first. Madison's mom, Beth, met me at the door with a concerned expression. Mike, I'm so glad you could come. Sarah was supposed to be here at 8, and Emma's been checking her phone every 5 minutes. Where did Sarah think Emma was going to be tonight? Beth hesitated. That's actually why I wanted to talk to you. Emma told Madison that Sarah dropped her off here at noon and said someone would pick her up eventually. She's been here for 9 hours, Mike. I gave her dinner and everything, but I have to get to my shift at the hospital. 9 hours. Sarah had dumped our 15-year-old daughter at a friend's house for 9 hours without arranging pickup. Beth, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Don't apologize. Emma's always welcome here. But Mike. She lowered her voice. She seemed really upset about something today. Kept asking Madison if she thought her dad could still love her even if she'd been mean to him. Those were her words. Emma appeared at the top of the stairs with her backpack, looking smaller than her 15 years. She hugged Madison goodbye and walked to my car without making eye contact. We drove in silence for the first few minutes before she spoke up. Dad, did you really say those things about Mom? About her being stupid and worthless? My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Emma, I have never called your mother stupid or worthless. Not once, not ever. She said you used to scream at her when I wasn't around. That you made her feel like she wasn't good enough. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. But today she screamed at Derek for like 20 minutes because he bought the wrong kind of coffee creamer, and it reminded me of. I don't know. It felt familiar. I pulled into a McDonald's parking lot and turned off the engine. This was the most real conversation Emma and I had shared in months. Can I ask you something? When you lived at home, before the divorce, do you remember me yelling at your mom? She was quiet for a long time, staring out the passenger window. No, she finally said. I remember her yelling at you sometimes. About money stuff, or if you forgot to do something she asked. She turned to look at me. You always got really quiet when she was mad. Do you remember me being mean to her? Controlling what she did or where she went? Dad. Emma's voice cracked. I think I've been really unfair to you. My heart broke and soared at the same time. I reached over and took Emma's hand, surprised when she didn't pull away. You haven't been unfair, sweetheart. You're 15 years old trying to make sense of an impossible situation. That's not your job. She squeezed my hand. I miss you, Dad. I miss how things used to be. I miss you too. More than you know. Emma wiped her eyes with her free hand. Can I ask you something else? Did you really leave us because Mom got promoted? She said you couldn't handle her making more money than you. Emma, I left because I came home from my conference early and found your mom with Derek in our bedroom. She was having an affair. The words felt strange to say out loud to my daughter, but she deserved the truth. I never had a problem with her promotion. I was proud of her. Emma went very still. Mom said you left because you were jealous of her success. She said Derek was just helping move furniture that day and you assumed the worst because you wanted an excuse to abandon us. Is that what you believed all this time? She nodded, fresh tears starting. But it never made sense. You always bragged about Mom's job to your friends. You threw her that surprise party when she got promoted, remember? With the cake from Romano's. I remembered. $200 for a custom cake, another $300 for catering, invitations to 30 people. Sarah had complained the entire time that the decorations weren't elegant enough and that I should have rented a nicer venue than our living room. Emma, I need to tell you something, but I want you to hear it from me, not from anyone else in town. I took a deep breath. Your mom has been telling people that I was abusive during our marriage. That I was controlling and threatening. Emma's face went pale. What? But that's... Dad, you've never even raised your voice at me. Not once. I know this puts you in a terrible position. No. Emma's voice was suddenly firm. Dad, this is crazy. Today at Madison's, I was telling her how Mom screams at Derek all the time, and how she threw a coffee mug at the wall last week when he came home late. Madison asked if you ever did stuff like that, and I said no, you always just went to your office and closed the door when you were upset. My chest tightened. Your mom threw something at Derek? She throws stuff when she's really mad. She always has. Emma looked confused. Wait, she never threw things at you? No, never. She was quiet for several minutes, processing. Then, Dad, there's something else. Derek's been weird with me lately. Not like inappropriate or anything, she added quickly, seeing my expression. But he keeps asking questions about you. Like, what kind of car you drive, where you work, if you've been dating anyone. Mom tells him stuff, and then he asks me if it's true. A chill ran down my spine. What kind of stuff? Last week he asked if you'd ever hit Mom. I said no, obviously not, but he kept pushing. Asked if I was sure, if maybe I just hadn't seen it happen. Emma's voice grew smaller. When I told him I was sure, he said sometimes kids don't know everything that happens between their parents. Emma, listen to me very carefully. If Derek or your mom ever makes you feel uncomfortable or unsafe. I know, Dad. Call you. She managed a small smile. I still have your number memorized from when I was little, remember? You made me practice it 100 times. My phone buzzed with a text. Sarah's name appeared on the screen. Where the hell is Emma? Beth Cooper said you picked her up without permission. Bring her home now or I'm calling the police. I showed Emma the message. Her face flushed with anger. She forgot about me completely, didn't she? I don't know, sweetheart. Dad, she was supposed to pick me up at 8. It's almost 10. She forgot, for 2 hours. Emma's voice was bitter in a way that sounded far too mature. She was probably with Derek somewhere, and I didn't even cross her mind. I started the car, dreading the confrontation ahead. We should get you home. Dad? Emma's voice was quiet again. Those recordings you have. The ones Tom Bradley mentioned to Madison's mom at soccer. My blood went cold. What about them? Can I hear one? I need to know what Mom's really been saying about you. I stared at my daughter in the dim light of the McDonald's parking lot, my heart hammering against my ribs. Emma wanted to hear the recordings, the evidence of her mother's real behavior that I'd been collecting for 18 months. Part of me felt vindicated that she was finally ready to see the truth. The other part wanted to protect her from it entirely. Some of those recordings, they're pretty harsh. Your mom says things about me that might be hard for you to hear. Dad, I'm 15, not 5. And I've been living with her. Emma's voice carried a new edge of maturity that caught me off guard. I hear how she talks to Derek. I've seen her throw things. Maybe it's time I knew what she's been saying about you to everyone in town. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Sarah. Mike, I swear to God, if you don't bring Emma home right now I'm calling Sheriff Martinez. This is kidnapping. Emma saw the message and rolled her eyes. She's being dramatic. She forgot about me for 2 hours, but somehow you're the bad guy for picking me up. I scrolled through my recordings, looking for one that would be revealing without being completely devastating. I settled on a file from last month, Sarah dropping Emma off at my apartment for our scheduled weekend. This is from October 20th. You were running upstairs to grab your soccer bag, remember? Emma nodded. I hit play, keeping the volume low. Sarah's voice filled the car. I don't know why I even bother with this custody schedule bullshit. Emma would rather spend weekends with Derek and me, but I have to pretend you're a real father. My recorded voice responded, Sarah, I just want what's best for Emma. if she doesn't want to spend time here. Oh, cut the martyr act, Mike. You know what's best for Emma. A stable home with a man who can actually provide for her. Derek's talking about getting her a car for her 16th birthday. What are you going to get her, a gift card to Target? Emma's face went ashen. On the recording, she could hear her own voice calling down the stairs, Dad, I can't find my cleats. Sarah's tone immediately shifted to saccharine sweetness. Check your bag, sweetie. Daddy's waiting for you. The moment Emma was presumably out of earshot, Sarah's voice dropped back to its venomous whisper, 24 hours, Mike. That's all you get with her, so don't screw it up by filling her head with your victim complex. I stopped the playback. Emma was staring at the phone like it had just slapped her. She told me you were being difficult about the custody schedule. She said you were demanding more time just to hurt her. Emma's voice was barely audible. But in that recording, you were trying to give her what she wanted. Your mom is hurting. The divorce, the affair, starting over, it's been hard for her. Sometimes people say things they don't mean when they're in pain. Dad, stop defending her. Emma turned to face me fully. She's been lying. About the custody thing, about why you left, about you being abusive. And everyone believes her because she's... Emma searched for the words. Because she's good at making people feel sorry for her. My phone rang. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. I have to answer this, I told Emma. Put it on speaker, she said firmly. I want to hear. Against my better judgment, I accepted the call and hit speaker. Where is my daughter? Sarah's voice exploded from the phone. Sarah, Emma called me because you were 2 hours late picking her up from Madison's house. I'm bringing her home now. You had no right to take her without asking me first. I'm her mother. Emma leaned toward the phone. Mom, you forgot about me. I called Dad because Madison's mom had to leave for work. Emma, honey, I didn't forget. Derek and I were dealing with an emergency at his work. I was going to call you. For 2 hours. Don't take that tone with me, young lady. Your father is filling your head with lies about. Actually, Mom, Dad's been defending you this whole time. But I just heard a recording of what you really think about our custody schedule. The line went dead silent. What recording? Sarah's voice was deadly quiet. I closed my eyes, knowing there was no going back now. Emma, get out of the car. Now. Sarah's voice through the speaker had dropped to that dangerous whisper I remembered from our worst fights. We're going to have a conversation about boundaries and respect. Emma looked at me with something I hadn't seen in months, defiance mixed with certainty. No, Mom. I want to hear Dad's answer. What recording? I could hear Derek's voice in the background. Just hang up, Sarah. We'll deal with this when she gets home. Don't you dare tell me how to handle my daughter, Sarah snapped, but not into the phone. Then back to us, Mike, I swear to God, if you're recording our conversations. It's legal in Ohio, Emma said before I could respond. Madison's dad is a lawyer. One-party consent state. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Then Sarah's voice came back, different now. Calculating. Emma, sweetheart, your father is very sick. He's been obsessing over our divorce, collecting things, watching me. This is exactly the kind of controlling behavior I was trying to protect you from. Emma's jaw dropped. Are you serious right now? Dad picked me up because you forgot about me. And now you're trying to make him sound like a stalker. Emma, please. Come home and we'll talk about this properly. Without your father manipulating the situation. How is he manipulating anything? He's literally just sitting here letting you talk. I'd stayed quiet deliberately, knowing that Sarah would reveal more if I didn't give her something to react to. But Derek's voice came through clearly now. Sarah, hang up. You're making this worse. Don't tell me what to. The line went dead. Emma stared at the silent phone. Dad, did you hear that? Derek told her she was making this worse. Like they've talked about this before. Like they have a plan. The thought had occurred to me, but hearing Emma articulate it sent ice through my veins. What do you mean? The questions Derek's been asking me about you. Mom's story's changing every few weeks. The way she's been going to all these different people with different versions. Emma's voice gained strength as she worked through it. What if this isn't just Mom having a breakdown? What if they're doing this on purpose? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Derek. Bring Emma home in the next 15 minutes or we're filing a police report for parental interference. Sarah's scared and upset. Emma read the message over my shoulder. Parental interference. Dad, you have joint custody. You're allowed to pick me up. They're trying to create a pattern, I said, the pieces clicking into place. Make it look like I'm violating custody agreements, being aggressive, not following rules. For what? I started the car, my mind racing. To get full custody. If they can prove I'm unstable, dangerous, or violating court orders, your mom could petition to have my visitation restricted or eliminated entirely. Emma went pale. They're trying to make sure you can never see me again. And the recordings prove that's been the goal all along. I pulled up another file as we drove towards Sarah's house. Listen to this one from August. Sarah's voice filled the car again, this time talking to someone else. Derek, based on the background noise, the custody evaluator said the best thing would be documented incidents of him being unreasonable or aggressive. We just need him to lose his temper once. Derek's voice, what if he doesn't take the bait? Then we make sure everyone knows what kind of man he really is. Small towns talk, Derek. Reputation matters here more than facts. I stopped the recording. Emma's hands were shaking. They've been planning this for months, she whispered. Mom's been lying to people on purpose, trying to make you look bad so she could take me away from you completely. We pulled into Sarah's driveway. Every light in the house was on, and I could see silhouettes moving behind the curtains. Emma, when we go in there, don't mention the recordings. Let me handle this. Dad? Emma's voice was small again. What if they don't let me see you anymore? What if their plan works? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw not just fear, but determination. Then we make sure it doesn't. The front door opened before we even reached the porch. Sarah stood silhouetted in the doorway, arms crossed, with Derek looming behind her like some kind of enforcer. The porch light cast harsh shadows across her face, making her expression look almost predatory. Emma, go to your room. Now. No greeting, no acknowledgement that her daughter had been stranded for 2 hours. Actually, I think Emma and I should talk about what happened tonight, I said calmly. She was left at the Cooper's house for 9 hours without proper arrangements. Derek stepped forward. Mike, I think you need to leave. This is a family matter. The irony of my daughter's mother's boyfriend calling this a family matter while excluding me wasn't lost on Emma. I saw her jaw clench. Derek, with respect, custody arrangements are between Sarah and me. Emma is my daughter too. Not according to what I've been hearing around town, Derek said with a smirk. Sounds like there's some question about whether you should be around kids at all. Emma's head snapped up. What's that supposed to mean? Sarah shot Derek a warning look, but he was already committed to the path. Your mom's told me about your dad's issues. The anger problems, the controlling behavior. Some people are saying he might not be safe. That's enough. My voice came out sharper than I intended, which was exactly what Derek had been hoping for. See? Derek spread his hands like he'd just proven a point. There's that temper Emma was telling us about. I never said Dad had a temper. Emma's voice cracked with frustration. I told you he doesn't yell, remember? When you kept asking weird questions about him. Sarah's face went white. Derek had just contradicted their carefully constructed narrative, and Emma had caught it immediately. Emma, you're confused, Sarah said quickly. You told us last week that your father had been short with you on the phone. No, I didn't. I told you he seemed sad, not angry. There's a difference. Emma turned to me. Dad, tell them about Beth Cooper. Tell them what she said about tonight. This was spiraling exactly the way Derek had wanted, but not in the direction he planned. Beth said you dropped Emma off at noon with no specific pickup time. Just said someone would get her eventually. That's not, I had a work emergency. For 9 hours. Emma's voice was getting louder. Mom, your location was at Derek's apartment all afternoon. I checked on Find My iPhone. The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah and Derek exchanged a look that confirmed everything Emma had just said. You were tracking your mother. Derek's voice took on a dangerous edge. See, Mike. This is exactly the kind of paranoid behavior she's been dealing with. Teaching Emma to spy on her own mother. I wasn't spying. The app is on all our phones for safety. But it shows Mom was at Derek's place from 2 p.m. until 30 minutes ago. Emma pulled out her phone. Want me to show you the timeline? Sarah lunged forward and grabbed for Emma's phone. Give me that. You don't get to investigate me like I'm some kind of criminal. Mom, stop. Emma pulled back, and Sarah's fingernails raked across her wrist, leaving red scratches. Everything stopped. Emma stared down at the scratches on her arm, Derek's mouth fell open, and Sarah looked like she'd just woken up from a trance. Emma, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. You scratched me. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. You actually hurt me because I caught you lying. I stepped between them, every protective instinct screaming. That's enough. Emma, get in the car. She's not going anywhere, Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction now. Emma looked at her mother, then at Derek, then at the red marks on her wrist. Yeah, I am. Emma walked past both of them to my car, cradling her scratched wrist against her chest. Sarah called after her, voice cracking with panic, Emma, please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. Derek grabbed Sarah's arm as she started to follow. Let them go. We'll call our lawyer in the morning. I helped Emma into the passenger seat, noticing she was trembling. As I walked around to the driver's side, Sarah broke free from Derek and ran to my window. Mike, please. Don't take her. She belongs here, this is her home. Tears streamed down her face, but something in her eyes looked more desperate than remorseful. I made a mistake, okay? I was stressed about work, I lost track of time. You were at Derek's apartment for 7 hours, Emma said quietly from the passenger seat. The location data doesn't lie, Mom. Sarah's expression shifted, the mask slipping further. So what if I was? I'm allowed to spend time with my boyfriend. You don't get to judge how I live my life. When it means abandoning your daughter for 9 hours. Yeah, I do. Emma held up her phone, and I realized she'd been recording. And now I have proof of exactly who you really are. Sarah's face went from desperate to furious in seconds. You little brat. Give me that phone right now. No. Emma's voice was steady now, resolved. Dad, can we go home? To your apartment, I mean. I want to stay with you tonight. Emma, you can't just decide that, Derek called from the porch. There are custody agreements, legal procedures. The custody agreement says Dad gets every other weekend, Wednesday nights, and any emergency situations, Emma called back. Mom abandoning me for 9 hours and then physically hurting me counts as an emergency. I started the engine, but Sarah planted herself in front of the car. I'm calling the police, she said, pulling out her phone. This is parental alienation. Mike, you're manipulating her against me. Through my rearview mirror, I saw Derek on his phone too. But Emma leaned forward and said something that made my blood run cold. Dad, Derek's not calling the police. Look at his screen, he's texting someone. It says, Sarah screwed up, need damage control ASAP. I looked back. Emma was right. Derek was frantically typing, his face lit by the phone screen, definitely not making a call. Which meant they had someone else involved in this plan. Someone who was coordinating their efforts to destroy my reputation and take Emma away from me. Sarah was still standing in front of my car, but she'd lowered her phone. She hadn't called anyone either. Sarah, move away from the car, I said through the open window. I'm taking Emma home with me tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps, but right now she needs space from this situation. If you drive away with her, I'll tell everyone you kidnapped her, Sarah said, but her voice lacked conviction. I'll tell them you forced your way into my house and took her against her will. Emma leaned across me toward the driver's window. Go ahead, Mom. Tell them whatever you want. I've got recordings of the real story now, and so does Dad. Maybe it's time everyone heard both versions. Sarah stepped back from the car like Emma had just threatened her with a weapon. Because in a way, she had. The truth was the one thing Sarah couldn't control or manipulate. As we pulled out of the driveway, I saw Derek put his arm around Sarah, both of them watching us leave. But Derek's phone was still in his hand, still glowing. Still coordinating with whoever else was part of their plan. Dad, Emma said quietly as we drove through downtown Millbrook, we're in a lot of trouble, aren't we? Yeah, sweetheart. I think we are. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Emma was still asleep on my couch, her scratched wrist visible above the blanket I'd given her. The sight of those red marks made my chest tight with a rage I hadn't felt since the day I found Sarah with Derek. The first voicemail was from Sheriff Martinez, timestamped 6:23 a.m. Mike, I need you to call me back immediately. Sarah filed a report last night claiming you violated custody terms and may have physically removed Emma from the home against her will. I know this sounds like bullshit, but I have to follow protocol. Sheriff Martinez had coached Emma's soccer team 2 years ago. He knew both Sarah and me personally, which probably explained why his voice sounded more tired than accusatory. The second call was from my boss, Dr. Rebecca Chen. Mike, I got a very disturbing call this morning from someone claiming to be concerned about your mental state. They suggested you might be a risk to colleagues or clients. Please call me before you come in today. My hands started shaking. Sarah wasn't just targeting my relationship with Emma anymore, she was going after my career. The third voicemail made my blood freeze. Mr. Hoffman. This is Janet Walsh from Millbrook High School. Emma was marked absent this morning, and when we called the primary emergency contact, we were told she might be with you without proper authorization. We need verification of her whereabouts for our records, and possibly a meeting with administration about the concerns that have been raised. They'd called the school. Sarah and Derek had actually called Emma's school to suggest I'd taken her inappropriately. Emma stirred on the couch, then sat up abruptly when she saw me on the phone. Dad? What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I showed her the call log. Your mom and Derek worked fast. They called the sheriff, my boss, and your school before 7 a.m. Emma's face went pale. What did they tell them? Before I could answer, my apartment buzzer rang. Through the window, I could see Sheriff Martinez's patrol car in the parking lot. Emma, I need you to stay calm and tell the truth about everything that happened last night. Exactly what happened, in order. She nodded, but I could see her hands trembling. Sheriff Martinez looked uncomfortable when I opened the door. He'd removed his hat, which was usually a good sign. Mike, Emma. Sorry to bother you so early. He glanced around my small apartment. Emma, are you here voluntarily? Are you safe? Yes, sir. I called Dad myself when Mom forgot to pick me up from Madison's house. Emma's voice was steady, but she unconsciously touched the scratches on her wrist. I asked to stay here last night. Martinez noticed the movement. Emma, what happened to your arm? Emma looked at me, then back at Martinez. Mom grabbed my phone last night when I was showing the location data that proved she'd been lying about where she was. Her fingernail scratched me when I pulled away. Martinez's expression darkened. Can I see? Emma held out her wrist. The scratches weren't deep, but they were clearly visible, 4 parallel lines where fingernails had raked across skin. Mike, I need to document this. Martinez pulled out his phone and took photos. Emma, did your mother intend to hurt you? I don't think so. But she was really angry that I caught her lying about having a work emergency. She was actually at Derek's apartment for 7 hours while I was stuck at Madison's house. Martinez made notes in his small pad. Sarah's version of events is quite different. She claims Mike showed up aggressively demanding Emma, and that Emma seemed scared and reluctant to speak freely. Emma's jaw dropped. That's completely backwards. Dad was super calm, and Mom was the one who got loud and weird. Derek kept trying to provoke Dad into getting angry, but it didn't work. Provoke him how? Emma looked at me again. I nodded permission. Derek said people around town were questioning whether Dad should be around kids at all. He was trying to make Dad lose his temper so they could say he was dangerous. Martinez stopped writing and looked directly at me. Mike, that's a serious accusation. Do you have any proof of systematic attempts to damage your reputation? I pulled out my phone. Sheriff, I've been recording my interactions with Sarah since the divorce. I have 18 months of documentation. Including last night. Including last night. Martinez sat down heavily in my kitchen chair. Play me the relevant parts. As Derek's voice filled my small apartment, talking about baiting me into losing my temper and Sarah discussing documented incidents with a custody evaluator, Sheriff Martinez's expression grew grimmer. When the recording ended, he looked at Emma. How long has this kind of planning been going on? I don't know for sure, but Derek's been asking me weird questions about Dad for months. And Mom's stories about why they got divorced keep changing. Emma pulled out her own phone. Sheriff Martinez, I recorded part of last night too. Want to hear what Mom said when I told her I was leaving with Dad? Martinez looked at me. Mike, I think you need a lawyer. Today. Sheriff Martinez listened to Emma's recording with the kind of focused attention that made me remember why he'd been elected 3 times running. When Emma's voice played back Sarah calling her a little brat for documenting the lies, followed by Sarah's threat to claim I'd kidnapped her, Martinez closed his notebook with a sharp snap. Emma, I need to ask you something important, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. His voice had shifted into official mode. In the past 6 months, has your mother or Derek ever coached you on what to say about your father? Asked you to remember things a certain way, or suggested that things happened differently than you remembered? Emma's face went pale. Last month, when I told Mom that I missed having dinner with Dad every night, she said maybe I was remembering wrong, and that Dad used to ignore me during meals. But that's not true. Dad always asked about school and helped me with homework while we ate. What did Derek say? He said maybe the divorce was so traumatic that I was idealizing Dad to cope with abandonment feelings. He used those exact words, idealizing and abandonment feelings. It sounded like something he'd read in a book. Martinez made more notes. Mike, I'm going to need copies of those recordings. All of them. And I need to ask, did you know Sarah was planning to file for modified custody? My stomach dropped. No. When? According to the paperwork she filed yesterday morning, she's requesting supervised visitation only, citing concerns about your mental stability and potential for emotional manipulation of the child. Martinez looked grim. The timing is interesting, considering Emma called you for help just 12 hours later. Emma sat up straighter. Wait, she filed paperwork yesterday morning. Before she forgot about me at Madison's? According to the timestamp, yes. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. She abandoned Emma on purpose, I said slowly. She was hoping I wouldn't be available, or that Emma would have to call Derek, so they could document me either being unreliable or overstepping boundaries. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. But I called you instead, and you just came to get me. Like a normal dad would. Martinez's radio crackled. After a brief exchange, he looked at me seriously. Mike, Sarah's at the station right now with Derek and someone she's introduced as her attorney. They're demanding I arrest you for violating custody agreements and emotionally manipulating Emma. What attorney? I asked. Sarah can't afford a lawyer, she just bought Derek's truck last month and complained about money for 3 weeks. Guy named Richard Kowalski from Columbus. Expensive suit, nice briefcase. Martinez paused. Emma, did you know your mom had hired a lawyer? Emma shook her head, but then stopped. Wait. 2 weeks ago, Derek got a call during dinner and went outside to take it. When he came back, he told Mom everything was set up, just stick to the timeline. I thought he was talking about his work schedule. My phone rang. Unknown number from Columbus area code. Don't answer it, Martinez advised. Mike, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go back to the station and review Sarah's complaint against the evidence you provided. But you need legal representation immediately. This Kowalski guy is already talking about emergency custody modification and filing charges for interference with parental rights. Emma grabbed my arm. Dad, they planned this whole thing. Mom filed the custody papers, then abandoned me hoping something would go wrong, and when I called you instead of Derek, they just moved to Plan B. Plan B. Make it look like you kidnapped me. Her voice was getting stronger, more certain. But they didn't count on me recording everything, or me actually wanting to stay with you. Martinez stood up, adjusting his utility belt. Emma, would you be willing to give an official statement about the events of last night? And about Derek's questions over the past few months? Yes, sir. But Sheriff Martinez? Emma looked directly at him. How much trouble is Dad really in? Because Mom and Derek have been planning this for a long time, and they have money for lawyers now. Martinez's expression was grim. Emma, your dad's in serious trouble. False accusations can be just as damaging as real ones, especially in a small town. But the truth has a way of coming out, and you two have documented everything. As he reached the door, Martinez turned back. Mike, one more thing. This Kowalski attorney. He's not just expensive. He specializes in high-conflict custody cases and parental alienation claims. Someone with serious money hired him specifically to destroy your relationship with Emma. After he left, Emma and I sat in stunned silence. Finally, she spoke up. Dad, Derek's been getting mysterious phone calls for weeks. And Mom suddenly had money for his truck, her new clothes, and now this lawyer. She looked at me with fear in her eyes. What if Derek's not just Mom's boyfriend? What if someone's paying him to help destroy your life? The realization hit me like ice water. I grabbed my laptop and started pulling up Derek's social media profiles, something I'd avoided doing since the divorce out of respect for Emma's feelings. Dad, what are you looking for? Derek moved to Millbrook 8 months ago, right around the time your mom's stories about me started getting more elaborate. I scrolled through his Facebook timeline. Look at this, he's got photos from Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland. All within the past 2 years. Emma leaned over my shoulder. So, maybe he travels for work. Or maybe he moves around a lot. I clicked on his employment history. Look at his job listings. Relationship consultant, personal life coach, domestic transition specialist. What the hell does any of that actually mean? My phone buzzed with a text from Tom Bradley. Mike, urgent. Can you meet me at Murphy's Diner in 20 minutes? Found something you need to see about Derek. Emma read the message over my shoulder. Dad, this is getting really scary. 20 minutes later, Tom slid into the booth across from us with a manila folder and a kind of expression that meant bad news. Mike, after our conversation yesterday, I couldn't stop thinking about Derek's questions at the soccer games. So I called my brother-in-law in Cleveland. He's a private investigator. Tom opened the folder. Derek Mitchell isn't his real name. Emma's face went white. What? His legal name is Derek Kowalski. As in, Richard Kowalski's nephew. The attorney who's representing your mom. That's Derek's uncle. My blood turned to ice. They're related? Gets worse. Derek's been married twice before. Both marriages ended with his wife getting full custody and the father's losing visitation rights entirely. Tom pulled out printed pages. Detroit, 2019. Chicago, 2021. Same pattern both times. Derek moves to town, targets a recently divorced woman with a bitter custody dispute, escalates the conflict until the father looks unstable, then disappears after the custody case is settled. Emma grabbed the papers with shaking hands. He's done this before. To other families. 3 times, as far as my brother-in-law can track. Always moves on within 6 months of the custody modification being finalized. Tom's voice was grim. Mike, this isn't about Sarah being hurt or angry about your divorce. This is a coordinated scheme. I stared at the documents, court filings, newspaper articles, marriage certificates. In Detroit, Derek had convinced Rebecca Martinez to claim her ex-husband was stalking them. In Chicago, he'd helped Patricia Williams document threatening behavior that resulted in supervised visits only. Both women had eventually discovered Derek's lies, but only after their ex-husbands had already lost their children. Dad, Emma's voice was barely audible. What happened to those other kids? The ones whose dads lost custody. Tom flipped to another page. Rebecca Martinez's daughter, Ashley, ran away at 16. Found living in a shelter, told social workers she'd been trying to find her father for 2 years. Patricia Williams' son committed suicide at 17. The words hit me like a physical blow. Emma started crying quietly, and I pulled her against my side. Tom, why would Derek do this? What does he get out of it? Money, from what my brother-in-law can tell. Someone pays him to target specific custody cases. The lawyer uncle provides legal support, Derek provides the emotional manipulation and evidence gathering. Tom's jaw was tight with anger. Mike, they're not just trying to take Emma away from you. They're being paid to do it. Emma looked up at me with red eyes. Who would pay someone to destroy our family? Before I could answer, my phone rang. The same Columbus number from earlier. Answer it, Tom said. But put it on speaker. We need to know what we're dealing with. I accepted the call. A smooth, professional voice filled the diner booth. Mr. Hoffman, this is Richard Kowalski. I represent Sarah Mitchell in the matter of custody modification for your daughter Emma. I'm calling to offer you an opportunity to resolve this matter quietly, without the need for further legal proceedings. Emma's eyes widened at hearing Derek's real last name used so casually. What kind of resolution? I asked. Voluntary relinquishment of parental rights in exchange for avoiding criminal charges for interference and emotional abuse. My client is prepared to be generous. You'll have supervised phone contact once monthly until Emma turns 18. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. Tom was frantically taking notes. And if I refuse? Kowalski's laugh was cold. Mr. Hoffman, we have documented evidence of your unstable behavior, witness statements about your controlling tendencies, and now a clear pattern of violating custody agreements. Emma's own mother is afraid of you. How do you think that looks to a family court judge? Emma leaned toward the phone, her voice steady despite her tears. Mr. Kowalski, this is Emma. I'm 15 years old, and everything my mother has told you is a lie. The line went dead silent. I could practically hear Kowalski's legal mind recalibrating on the other end. Emma, his voice came back smoother, more careful. Sweetheart, you're in a very stressful situation right now. Sometimes when we're confused or scared, we might say things we don't really mean. I'm not confused. Emma's voice cut through his patronizing tone like a blade. I know Derek's real name is Kowalski. I know he's your nephew. And I know he's done this to at least 2 other families before ours. The silence stretched longer this time. When Kowalski spoke again, the professional veneer had cracked slightly. Mr. Hoffman, I strongly advise you to prevent your daughter from making unfounded accusations that could constitute defamation. The only unfounded accusations are the ones my mother's been spreading around town for 6 months, Emma interrupted. But Dad has recordings of everything. 18 months worth. Tom was grinning now, scribbling notes as fast as he could write. This wasn't going according to Kowalski's script. Mr. Hoffman, you're allowing a minor child to participate in an adult legal conversation. This is highly inappropriate and suggests exactly the kind of boundary violations my client has described. I leaned toward the phone. Mr. Kowalski, Emma called me last night when Sarah abandoned her for 9 hours. She's the one who discovered your nephew's pattern of targeted questions. She has every right to defend herself against false allegations. Abandoned is a very strong word. What would you call leaving a 15-year-old at a friend's house from noon until 9 p.m. with no arranged pickup time? Emma's voice was getting stronger. While spending 7 hours at your nephew's apartment, according to phone location data. Another long pause. I could hear papers shuffling, possibly whispered conversation in the background. Mr. Hoffman, I'm prepared to extend my offer until 5 p.m. today. After that, we'll be filing additional motions including requests for psychological evaluation and supervised visitation pending a full custody hearing. What's the rush? I asked. If your case is so strong, why push for immediate resolution? Tom held up his notes, pointing to something he'd written. Stalling tactic. What are they afraid of? Kowalski's voice came back tighter. My client's safety and Emma's well-being are our primary concerns. The longer this drags out, the more traumatic it becomes for everyone involved. Emma leaned forward again. Mr. Kowalski, did Derek tell you he tried to get Dad to lose his temper last night? Because I recorded that conversation too. Emma, honey, you may think you understand adult situations, but I understand that your nephew has been asking me for months whether Dad ever hit my mom, even after I told him no multiple times. I understand that Mom filed custody papers the same morning she abandoned me. And I understand that you specialize in taking kids away from their fathers. The shuffling papers stopped. When Kowalski spoke again, his voice had a hard edge. Mr. Hoffman, your daughter's hostility toward her mother and her inappropriate involvement in adult legal matters only reinforces our position that she's being emotionally manipulated and coached. Tom slid another note across the table. He's rattled. Keep pushing. Actually, I said, Emma's just telling the truth. Something your nephew apparently has trouble with, based on his track record in Detroit and Chicago. The line went completely silent for almost 30 seconds. When Kowalski came back, the smooth attorney voice was gone, replaced by something much colder. Mr. Hoffman, you have until 5 p.m. After that, we'll see just how much truth really matters in a courtroom. The call ended abruptly. Emma stared at the silent phone, then looked at Tom and me. Dad, they're scared. Did you hear how his voice changed when I mentioned the other families? Tom nodded grimly. Emma's right. But Mike, that also means they're going to get desperate. And desperate people do unpredictable things. My phone started buzzing with notifications before we even left Murphy's diner. Text after text, all from numbers I recognized, neighbors, coworkers, people from church. Tom grabbed my arm as I scrolled through them. Mike, don't read those right now. Not in front of Emma. But Emma had already seen my expression. Dad, what's happening? The first message I'd glimpsed was from my neighbor Mrs. Patterson. Mike, I'm so sorry to hear about Emma being in the hospital. Sarah said you pushed her down the stairs. I can't believe this. My hands went numb. Tom, they're telling people Emma's in the hospital. That I hurt her. Emma's face went white. What? But I'm right here. Tom's phone started ringing. Then mine. Then Emma's. Within minutes, all three of our phones were lighting up constantly. This is coordinated, Tom said grimly. They're flooding social media and the phone tree simultaneously. Emma answered her phone when Madison's name appeared. Madison? No, I'm not in the hospital. Who told you that? She listened for a moment, her face getting paler. Derek called your mom an hour ago. And said what? She hung up and looked at me with terror in her eyes. Dad, Derek told Madison's mom that you finally snapped and pushed me down the stairs at your apartment. He said mom was at the hospital with me and that parents should keep their kids away from you. My phone rang again, Dr. Chen from work. Mike, please tell me this isn't true. I just got a call from someone claiming to be from Millbrook General Hospital, saying you brought Emma in with injuries and that there was a police investigation. Rebecca, Emma's sitting right next to me, completely fine. This is a fabrication. I put the call on speaker so Emma could confirm. Dr. Chen, this is Emma. I'm not hurt, I'm not in any hospital, and my dad has never laid a hand on me. Her voice was steady but I could see her hands shaking. Someone is spreading lies to destroy my dad's reputation. Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Emma, sweetheart, are you somewhere safe? Because if even half of what I'm hearing is true. It's all lies, Emma said firmly. Dr. Chen, my dad has recordings proving that my mom and her boyfriend have been planning this for months. They're being paid by someone to take me away from dad. Another pause. Mike, I'm going to need you to come in tomorrow with documentation of everything you just claimed. HR is getting calls, and I have to protect both you and our clients. After she hung up, Tom's phone rang. His face went ashen as he answered. Sheriff Martinez? Yes, he's right here. Tom's expression grew grimmer. They what? Are you serious? He hung up and looked at me. Mike, Derek and Sarah are at Millbrook General right now, claiming they're looking for Emma. They told the ER staff that you brought her in earlier with suspicious injuries, then kidnapped her from the hospital. That's insane, Emma said. Hospital security cameras would prove I was never there. That's exactly what Sheriff Martinez told them. But Derek's making a huge scene, demanding to search the hospital for you. Tom's jaw was tight. Mike, they're not just spreading lies anymore. They're creating public incidents designed to make you look guilty. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mike, this is Beth Cooper. Madison told me about the hospital story, but Emma was just at my house last night, perfectly safe. Some people are starting to ask questions about Sarah's version of events. You have more support than you think. Another text, from Jennifer Morrison. Mike, something's not adding up. Derek called me about Emma being hurt, but my daughter just saw her at Murphy's Diner looking fine. What's really going on? Emma read the messages over my shoulder. Dad, people are starting to figure it out. Derek's story is falling apart because I'm obviously not in any hospital. Tom nodded grimly. But that also means they're going to escalate again. If the hospital story doesn't work, what's their next move? Before I could answer, Emma's phone rang. Sarah's name on the screen. Answer it, I told her. But record everything. Emma hit record and answered on speaker. Sarah's voice came through frantic and high-pitched. Emma. Baby, where are you? Derek and I are at the hospital looking for you. Are you okay? Did your father hurt you? Emma's voice was ice cold. Mom, you know exactly where I am because you didn't actually take me to any hospital. You're lying. Emma, sweetheart, you might have a concussion. Sometimes when we're hurt, we don't remember things clearly. I remember everything clearly, Mom. Including you scratching my arm last night when I caught you lying. Emma held her phone closer. The question is, who's paying Derek to help you destroy Dad's life? The line went quiet except for muffled voices in the background. Then Derek's voice came on, no longer smooth or calculated. Emma, your father has poisoned your mind against your own mother. Can't you see what he's done to you? What I can see is that you've done this to at least 2 other families before ours, Emma shot back. And I can see that Uncle Richard's 5 p.m. deadline is making you both panic. The sharp intake of breath on the other end told us Emma had hit her target. In the background, we could hear Sarah's voice. She knows about Richard. How does she know about Richard? Derek's voice came back strained. Emma, you need to come home right now. This has gone far enough. Emma looked at me, then at Tom, then spoke directly into the phone. No, Derek. Or should I say, Derek Kowalski. I'm staying with my dad, and tomorrow everyone in Millbrook is going to know exactly who you really are. She hung up before they could respond. The three of us sat in stunned silence until Tom finally spoke. Emma, that was either very brave or very dangerous. Possibly both. My phone immediately started ringing again. Sheriff Martinez. Mike, you need to get somewhere safe with Emma. Derek just lost it at the hospital, started screaming about you brainwashing his daughter and threatening to handle this himself if the law won't. Security had to escort him out. The words sent ice through my veins. Martinez, are you saying Derek threatened us? I'm saying Derek Mitchell, or Kowalski, or whatever his real name is, just made it very clear that he's not planning to wait for lawyers anymore. Sheriff Martinez met us at his office 15 minutes later, but we weren't alone. Beth Cooper was there with Madison, Jennifer Morrison had brought her husband, and Tom's wife Linda was setting up what looked like a recording station with her laptop. Mike, Emma, Martinez said grimly, Derek and Sarah just left town. Packed up and drove toward Columbus about 30 minutes ago. Emma's face lit up with relief, but Martinez held up his hand. Before you celebrate, there's something else. We got a call from Detroit PD, Rebecca Martinez, the woman from Derek's first scheme. She's been trying to track him for 2 years. Turns out Derek and his uncle have been running this operation in at least 6 states, not just 3. Beth Cooper stepped forward. Sheriff, we've been making calls. The parent network, church groups, Emma's teachers. Once people started comparing stories, Derek's lies fell apart completely. Linda opened her laptop. Mike, I contacted that private investigator Tom mentioned. He's been building a case against the Kowalski operation for 3 years. Your recordings. They're the missing piece that connects everything. Emma grabbed my arm. Dad, does this mean it's over? Sheriff Martinez smiled for the first time all day. Emma, your mother left a signed statement confessing that Derek coached her on what to say about your father. Apparently, when Derek realized you'd figured out their scheme, he told Sarah she was too stupid to follow simple instructions and that she'd ruined everything. Jennifer Morrison pulled out her phone. Sarah called me crying an hour ago. She wanted everyone to know that Mike never hurt anyone, that Derek had convinced her she could get full custody and child support from Mike's tech money if she played along. My chest loosened for the first time in months. What about the custody case? Withdrawn as of 2 hours ago, Martinez said. Richard Kowalski is facing ethics violations in 3 states. The Ohio Bar Association froze his practice pending investigation. Emma looked around the room at all these people, neighbors, friends, parents who'd known us for years. So everyone knows the truth now. Beth Cooper sat down next to Emma. Honey, we should have listened to our instincts from the beginning. Your dad coaching soccer, helping at school events, bringing those expensive Gatorades you like, that's not what abusive fathers do. Linda pulled up a web page on her laptop. The Detroit private investigator wants to interview you both. Derek's pattern of targeting families is going to put him away for a long time. Tom clapped me on the shoulder. Mike, your systematic documentation saved not just your family, but probably several others Derek would have targeted next. Emma leaned against me, finally looking like the 15-year-old she was instead of someone forced to grow up too fast. Dad, does this mean I can come home? To your apartment, I mean. You can live wherever feels safest. But yes, we're going to figure out a real home situation now. Sheriff Martinez gathered up his paperwork. Mike, Sarah's agreed to testify against Derek and Richard in exchange for immunity. She's also requested that you get primary custody, with her having supervised visits until she completes counseling. 6 months later, Emma scored the winning goal at the regional soccer championship. Sarah was there, sitting 3 rows behind me, cheering appropriately but keeping her distance. She'd moved back in with her parents and started therapy twice a week. After the game, Emma ran over holding her trophy. Dad, guess what? Coach Bradley says I might get recruited by state next year. That's amazing, sweetheart. She glanced over at Sarah, then back at me. Dad? I'm glad you never gave up on the truth. Even when everyone believed her lies. I looked around at the packed bleachers, our community, rebuilt on honesty instead of manipulation. Derek Kowalski was serving 18 months for fraud and harassment. Richard Kowalski had been disbarred. And Emma and I had learned that sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you turns out to be exactly what you needed. Me too, Em. Me too.